In part 1 I left the question hanging, why does the libertine movement want to be institutionalised by marriage? Obviously there's another force at work here, or I'm sure that there's many forces and subtleties at work, but the clear force at work is progressive liberal Christianity. See, the new left of the Cultural Revolution has not brought same-sex marriage to the table. In the years of 1968 to 73, they did not push for same-sex marriage, but rather carried the slogan, marriage is slavery. From the French Revolution to the Fabian socialists, to the free thinkers of secular Australia, the idea of marrying two homosexuals had not arisen. No communist society has ventured into same-sex marriage, and no other major religion. You can rule out ancient paganism, animism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Judaism and Islam. Same-sex marriage is the synthesis of the gay liberation movement's same-sex lifestyle plus liberal Christianity's institution of marriage. This can be simply explained by Johann Ficht's thesis, antithesis and synthesis. This simple little diagram here easily shows how we arrive at same-sex marriage. The thesis, progressive liberal theology has Christian marriage. The antithesis, the gay liberation movement has same-sex sexual relationship. So the synthesis we get is same-sex marriage. This sheds true light on the debate. We are not talking about marriage equality, and I'll address that point later, but we are talking about a new synthesis between progressive liberal Christianity and the LGBT community. In case you're asking what is progressive liberal Christianity, I'll give a simplified description. About 200 years ago, when Catholic, Orthodox and Evangelical Christianity taught that people were basically bad, and the Bible's message was good news, progressive liberal Christians began to teach that people were basically good, and the Bible contained bad errors. They turned things upside down. Well, gradually the progressive liberal Christians popped up in many different Christian denominations and institutions. You may ask why they remained a part of Christianity. Well, they still considered God to be a trinity, but like a trinity of love, with Jesus as a hero of love and the Spirit as the power working to progress humanity in the virtue of love, kindness, fairness and justice. For this reason, the progressive liberal Christians believe the Spirit of God is moving today in a new way by bringing harmony between the homosexuals and the heterosexuals, and the rite of passage for this new synthesis is same-sex marriage. To make this point clear, let's look at the first same-sex union in Texas back in 1972. Progressive liberal Christian minister Reverend Richard Vinson of the Dallas Metropolitan Community Church is marrying gay liberationists Antonio and William. This is the real union we are talking about in the subject. It's not the union of two men or two women, but a future of cooperation and union between progressive liberal Christianity and progressive homosexuality. Let me give some other reasons why I say this. The countries that have legalized same-sex marriage have a groundswell of progressive liberal Christian thinking. We have liberal Catholic countries, Argentina, Belgium, Brazil, Ireland, Luxembourg, Portugal, Spain, Uruguay, and liberal Protestant countries, Canada, Denmark, England, Wales, Scotland, Finland, Iceland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa, Sweden. The two exceptions are the USA and France, so there is other factors involved. Also, consider the timeline of events. Liberal Christians have initiated moves towards same-sex marriage. The first country to recognise same-sex marriage was Denmark, which was not ruled by a leftist regime, and with only about 2% of the LGBT community, they obviously are not going to change laws. But the Conservative People's Party under a Christian constitutional monarchy, you see there's a strong influence of progressive liberal Christianity, and that did the job. Now take a look at Canada. The Uniting Church of Canada started in 1977 to have the federal government add sexual orientation to federal non-discrimination laws, which was accomplished in 1996. The church had also engaged in activism in favour of legislation of same-sex marriage way before it was legalised. Even the Anglican Church of Canada was blessing gay and lesbian unions before same-sex legislation appeared from 2003 to 2005. Well, to Australia, thousands of Aussies have graduated out of schools and other places with liberal Christian values. About the largest employer in Australia is the Uniting Church of Australia, and it has supported homosexuality since 2004. In an article published in the Brisbane Times in August 2015, the very Reverend Dr. Peter Catt of the Anglican Church positively declared clergy are coming out for marriage equality in ever-increasing numbers. 106 clergy presented a letter of support for marriage equality after a prayer breakfast at Parliament House. We note that a sizable majority of Christian people are very supportive of marriage equality for their gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, friends and work colleagues. These are absolutely on board with our country moving to a position where committed loving relationships can be affirmed by society and civil marriage ceremonies. The Galaxy poll said Christians were at 53% overall. The Crosby Textor poll was scraping 60%. Further breakdown said that Anglicans Uniting Church is at 57% and the Catholics are a high 67%. Well, I hope the listener will start to look at the issue afresh and realise that we are not dealing here with an issue of secular civil rights or equality or unfair treatment. This is an issue that is favouring one idea of Christianity, the progressive liberal Christians, over another idea of Christianity, the traditional conservative orthodox. Have you ever asked why traditional conservative Christians oppose same-sex marriage? Sometimes the media or social media give you the impression that it's about hatred or homophobia, but that's not it. It's because we are talking about same-sex Christian marriage. Through the back door, one aspect of the church, in partnership with the LGBT movement, is redefining something that is Christian. The evangelical Christians believe that since Jesus Christ truly rose from the dead and told his followers that he is Lord of heaven and earth, then truly what we call Christian is to be his definition. So we say something is Christian marriage, and his definition of marriage stands as the right one, is about accepting Jesus as Lord. And what did Jesus say in Matthew 19:4? This is what he said. "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one. Therefore what God has joined together, let man not separate." Well, no one can deny that Christianity has for about 2,000 years stood by this definition of marriage. That's an awesome long time. On the other hand, progressive liberal Christianity has not produced any evidence that same-sex marriage is indeed a work of God or a progress in love. This leads us to ask some very important questions. Should progressive liberal Christianity call the shots on this issue? Is this really a progression in love, fairness and justice? Can this new synthesis of liberal Christianity with the LGBT community be trusted? Will it meet up to its desired expectations? Well, I'll answer these questions in part 3.